All right, welcome in everyone. My name is Jim Lee. I'm an artist for DC Comics. I'm also the publisher, chief creative officer. But today I'm going to be speaking in my capacity as an artist, or trying to speak in my capacity as an artist. First of all, I want to welcome you guys to SAM, Storytelling Across Media. I think this is my third or fourth time, consecutive time being part of this event. First time doing it virtually. Um, I thought I would Normally, I just kind of field questions and talk about my career, but given that this is going to be a slightly different format, there is going to be a live component to it, so there will be some interaction with the people that are watching the stream. Um, I thought I would just start with a topic and kind of stick to it and see what that kind of looks and feels like. I thought I'd talk about storytelling, um, and when I talk about storytelling, it's it's about how words and pictures work together to create a narrative, but how important it is that every decision that you make, whether it's the compositions, the size of the panels, the lighting schemes, all that stuff also plays a critical role in storytelling and creating and establishing mood and drama and tension and a sense of time. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. So I thought I would just start with a really basic layout, talk about the basics of storytelling, which is that in general, in Western culture, people read left to right. And most pages, the smoothest flow, like if you were reading a newspaper, you read left to right and then you cut diagonally on this corner like that and read again, right? So if there are two columns, every sentence you read and then come across, read again, come across, right? And you can take that same um, approach to imagery, right? To images on a piece of paper. Let me get an eraser here. Okay. So, um, so with that being said, let's create a very basic story flow. Okay. You know what might be kind of fun? Let's see if I can pull out a. Here, I've got this. Look at this. This is Justice League of America, issue 125 from December of yesteryear. Ernie Chan was the artist, EC. You can see that. Obviously, Two-Face from I'm going to guess that this is from the 70s. You have the Justice League and classic DC cover. Character comes in, freaked out, surprise. Have you all freaked out letting Two-Face join the JLA? Well, he'll double cross you, right? And this is from my collection as a kid, and you can see kind of like how yellowed and old that tape is there. And you can see that my comics, even though I bagged them very late in their lives, were very, very red and like that paper is water damage down here. It's not in great shape. It actually looks better on the light than it does in real life here. So what I thought I'd do, this is from 1970, looks like it's 75, 73, I can't read it. So anyway, I love this era. Jerry Conway was the writer, Dick Dillon and Frank McLaughlin were the artists. So, used to read these issues over and over again. And so let's find an example of this Z kind of storytelling here. Let's see. I don't see anything that, I mean, all works, I think, but. All right, I'm going to use this. So in this page here, you're reading it right to left, and then you come down here is the Z, and then you cut across here, come down here, and boom, you exit out. And you could have easily drawn the flash going right to left. Ignore my finger. I was just sketching, and this is white out. Just permanently gets attached. It takes a while to clean it off your fingers. But here you can see how the flash really moving left to right helps create that flow. If the artist had drawn it the other way around, it would have felt weird um, and kind of impeded our natural instincts to read left to right. So you're reading the word balloons that go left to right. Then you come down here and you can see how these sound effects here create like a little bit of a visual diagonal. And then these characters are both moving left to right here. And then actually the flash is kind of moving the other way here, which so what I'm going to do for the purpose of this panel is actually take this page and relay it out, maybe accentuate the Z a little bit more, and then talk about some of the creative choices and highlight how they help create drama, tension, storytelling, right? So if I were going to do this in the modern day, or if I was going to do this again, I'm going to stick to the 3 tiers. So boom, we've got 3 tiers here. We want to create this. This last panel we've agreed is pretty clear. The flash is running kind of left to right here. I would say that, you know, these characters are falling, but, you know, maybe there's a way where it's a screen, right? So maybe in that screen, if you angle that screen, they're falling more this direction, which kind of helps that flow. And then he's mysterious, so we don't ever see him. But man, I wonder if, just from a design perspective, we see a little bit more of his shoulders and people and the rest of his body there. I know this is really blown out. You can't see it. I'm going to go in with ink. So, and then this middle section here, got Hawkman coming in here, holding Two-Face. I'm going to throw Two-Face, his body, more in the wind here. Again, you can't see it super clear, but I will ink this in a bit. Just wanted to break it down and do some basic stuff here. And then let's do this. This is a very complicated panel, actually. There's a lot going on, foreground, middle ground, and background. I don't even know if I can pull that off. I will try. So let us get the marker here. And we are going to take a T-square. And I'm going to do some very quick down and dirty panel borders. All right. And there are these hash marks on the side of the paper. They'll allow me to line it up very quickly. And I'll tell you, I'm trying to lean into the format a little bit because I wouldn't be able to do this in an auditorium in San Diego. I wouldn't have a large drafting table, and I certainly wouldn't have like a T-square that I could use. So since I'm working at home, I thought I'd do something a little different. And for those of you that follow me on Twitch, at Jim Lee, twitch.tv / Jim Lee. It's a free service. You can watch me draw. Like I go on like once or twice a month, I'd say. But I usually draw figure work and it's like how to draw hands and bodies and things like that. I don't do too much of these kind of tutorials. I have done long form work where I draw like an entire page or cover over a period of 4 or 5 hours. All that stuff is archived on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jim Lee. Check it out. Here is the 5. Well, it's more than 5 because this bottom one is going to be broken down into several panels here. In the original, you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 here where the flash is running. I'm going to do something a little more modern and kind of break it up a little differently. So the big one here where the flash is to the right, like that. And then what I'm going to do is that each one gets progressively narrower, right? Let's bring it back in frame here. Oh, that last one really. Okay. Something like this. I would probably space these out a little bit differently, but all right. So this is very standard 1970s storytelling. Almost everything designed for a younger audience, so it's meant to be even clearer. And oh, it looks like someone just joined the stream, even though I'm not streaming. Anyway, sorry for the. Let me turn off those alerts for now. All right, got it. All right. So if you look, everything is fairly middle ground, right? There's nothing. There's no super close-ups. There's no giant images. Everything is roughly the same size. This is as big as a head is going to get here and here. And that is different from modern day storytelling. The modern day storytellers, we tend to pull the camera in and out more, larger elements in the foreground. Not everything's going to be in the middle ground. And it might not be as crystal clear as these comics were from the 1970s, but they tend to be a little more visually dynamic. And the older audiences understand, um, you know, the elements of storytelling and can understand modern storytelling because they just tend to be, a little more cognitively advanced and older, right? So with this, I'm going to go in, and also if you notice, they really usually the top third of the panel they would keep open. That's an exception, or a lot of times they know that the word balloon is going to go up there, so they tend not to put anything too important at the top, but not always, But that was a general guiding principle. So if we go back to this first panel here, all I would do is make this mysterious face larger. I don't know who it is in the story. It's been such a long time since I've read this. It's a Drondarian from an antimatter dimension. Interesting. And he's leading the Weaponers Acquired. So cool. Anyway, so with this, I would just probably make this much larger. Right. And then he's also got his, continue to put that hand, right? But with the hand, you could actually go ahead and just make it all black here, since you have that shadow in there. Now I'm going to come back to it because I want to talk about how shadows and lighting is super critical to storytelling. But you have that, and then I probably, and I got that there's these random, like probably want to make the screens look very alien and not have all these right angles like a traditional TV monitor. This is like the 1970s version of like futuristic or alien technology. So I'll go with that and just basically do something like this. That was a bad tangent there. You know. Yeah. And maybe it looks like that's on the screen. So let's go ahead and do something like this, right? Kind of signifying that it's this alien screen. Okay. And let's go. So this is his ear. That ear is casting a shadow on the side of the face, and this is the front of the face. He doesn't really have a nose per se, very small, slight nose, forehead. Try to exaggerate that forehead there. And mouth there. And then kind of render out of the shadows a little bit to create some gray transitional values. But you can see how, since this side of his face is all in shadow and the hand is clearly in front of his chest, that hand would also be pretty much in complete shadow. So why not just lean into it? Kind of reminds me of the Martian Manhunter there. Okay. Okay. And then you have Superman and Green Lantern. They're falling to Earth, and it's interesting the way Dick Dillon drew them. They look like they're flying a little bit. I mean, the Green Lantern. So I would probably have them more in an unconscious pose, so more like slumped over. So what would that look like? Then okay, pull this down so you can see it more. So let's put Superman here. All right, his cape. And then Green Lantern. More like he's covering up his head, and his head is down a bit more. Okay. They're falling, and then this world. Some sort of alien planet that they are on, I believe. So there's Superman and Green Lantern falling. They're a little larger in the frame. I have them going this way, just help this flow going here. I'm going to actually pull back on this guy a little bit. Really kind of pronounce, like make the shoulders pronounced, almost like he's got his arms behind his back. But at the end of the day, he's going to be mostly in black shadow. Maybe a slight light coming this way. And lighting is critical because when you do cool lighting, same difference between like a cheap TV show and like a big budget feature film. If you notice, it's the production values that you notice. It's better lighting, better special effects, better computer generated effects, um, bigger, more elaborate sets, real sets, right? Travel to like foreign cities. They're spending more money, right? And if you learn how to light your figures, it's the equivalent of spending more money on your comic book, right? If you don't do any lighting at all, you can do it. That's a valid style, of course, but if you can do it, it just makes it feel like it's a higher budget production. Okay, and the thing is, even if I don't sell it completely, right, light's hitting more of the top of his shoulders and then kind of getting darker as it kind of merges with his body here. I can certainly kind of blend it all down here. All right, maybe he's got a cape. But you can see kind of, we're definitely behind him, and he's definitely in shadow. And his head's even casting a shadow. Right? And then he's addressing a crowd, so we're going to do this. All the crazy screens are emanating this way, right? Even though they are non-traditional in shape, they still kind of flare out from this space here. So we're going to stick true to the angles. And then he's addressing a crowd of people, and so you would draw all these people, their heads. Right. And there's tricks to this. Sometimes you draw like one or two, like people up closer. You put maybe more detail in these little figures here. And when I say detail, like indications of the shadows on the side of the face. You know, maybe they're at a desk. And then when you get behind them, you can actually just draw black circles, like shadows in between the figures. It becomes more of a pattern, right? And because we've drawn these figures in detail in the foreground, our mind kind of knows that as it goes backwards, we're going to see less detail, and they just become more ciphers, right? But our mind will read them as figures. Okay, I'm sure there's a better way to express that than how I just did, but you get the idea. It's basically, if you draw a couple of these in detail in the foreground, you don't have to put the same level of detail. In fact, it's counterproductive to put the same level of detail back here because it makes everything in the foreground and background look like it's the same focal length, and it shouldn't be. The stuff in the foreground should be more detailed, and as you go back, it just gets more simplistic, and it becomes circles with like shadows, and our mind understands that it's a crowd of extras, right? So when you watch a movie with 1,000 extras, you might see one or two figures like in detail and get like their uniforms or weaponry, but then you don't really have time to like analyze the thousands behind that character. Your mind fills it in, right? So now with this, I'm going to take the flash here and do something where he's moving more into the panel itself, right? And to do that properly, I need a pencil here. Let's all right, get more of his body in there. And then to create more of a sense of motion, I'm going to put Two-Face flying backwards instead of standing kind of straight up and down. And then Hawkman remains the same. He's got a mace here. Now it gets a little trickier using the Sharpie to draw the detail that you're going to see in this figure. But so it's not it's just going to be an approximation. All right, here's the flash symbol. And this is really kind of how I start drawing a comic book. I don't use a Sharpie, but I do break down the panels using pencil, and I'm inking it here so that you guys can see it more clearly. But this is the thought process, kind of how I break it down. I want to establish a flow, right? Okay. Bit simple. And then with here, you've got Two-Face. And got his arms. You got Hawkman's arm around him. You've got his jacket. And then the legs are kind of further back in space, so you can go black, uh, all dark, all black shadows. And then Hawkman. Giant lollipop there, but trust me, it's a mace. Right? And then this one can be all black. I kind of like that decision to make that wing black there. You can see like, and actually this is good at practice because it basically forces you to draw in shorthand, right? To make these kind of decisions, like what's black, what's not black. And if you can take over, kind of carry over some of that decision making into your final drawing, it actually will make your storytelling stronger. Okay, and then boom. So like they're all kind of converging towards the center here. And these little figures are tiny, really tiny. I would just maybe have them be a little bit larger, and they still. I would overlap the Flash's face to like one of these, like, see how like they cleared the ground, like the figures are separate from this, like it's super clear to the kids essentially. Nothing overlaps. Not a lot overlaps. So they're foreshortening and creating depth by creating everything almost like it's like a hieroglyphic two-dimensional drawing as opposed to a three-dimensional drawing, right? So, bzz, but my instincts, modern day instincts, would be to have them in front of the energy blasts, so we know that the energy blasts are very large, but behind them, and then these people will be a little larger, and then, uh, you know, I don't mind the building here. That's cool. I don't mind them all being in black shadows. I would run the lights going this way. Like I would run it this way. Like the lights coming from here, and that they're in the shadow of this building. And that's kind of how I'd run it. Okay, and then water. And the Flash is running on water. Okay, and then this one. So boom, boom, boom. I'm going to continue this motion, but I want to start sending the eye back here, and that's why this person that's getting punched or kicked is critical. So let's do that. He's got his hat, but let's really play up that he's moving this direction by basically putting his hand here. Okay. And this other person maybe put his hand up in the air. I like the chin going like this. His mouth is open. His head's flung back. Flung back. Flung back. Okay. So with this, you can still do Two-Face doing a very cool kind of Batman move. All right. So excuse the poor kind of structure there. All right. And then Hawkman. I think I'm going to put that arm out. It's understood that he pretty much let him go. So it's more of an upshot on his chin there. Maybe that knee's forward. right? And then the flash is running. Maybe pull him more into the frame. Um, um, okay, something like that. The ground is here. And the rocky cliffs mean I can put them at different levels. And they will be, say, it might be clear for them to be like right here. And they got their wand or whatever it is, and it's going zzz, zzz. Okay. All right. This arm should go more down here. So Hawkman's clearly flying that way. So establishing that angle, this angle here. Everything's kind of pointing, helping point the eye down here. So here, here, here. This is kind of where the eye is moving from his face. Like our eyes tend to gravitate towards faces and eyes. Boom, boom, boom. They're flying in, sweeping down here, and then you've got the flash basically running down here. And, you know, this is an awesome panel, but you can have all the people flying. But the idea is that it goes bigger, smaller, 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 indicating kind of this passage of time, right? It's like these panels are happening faster and faster, and it's like the eye is slowing down so we can see the flash as he's running. And then even the whoosh, maybe you run it across just like they have. Right. Okay. Okay. So that's my recreation of a classic Dick Dillon page. I didn't really make too many changes, to be honest. Like I said, I thought using an example because I clearly saw like a Z storytelling effect going in there. I just really laid it out, made some changes in terms of the panel shapes, some of the construction of the figures, the shadows, um, overlapping of elements to maybe a little more complex compositions and enlarge some elements. Um, but there's a lot of dialogue up here. So where is it going to go? It's going to go up here, here. It's going to bleed all the way here. That dialogue may end up being over here, right? This dialogue here may end up over here. Their dialogue here may end up here. This dialogue may end up here and here. And maybe even some of this, like, never thought I'd hear Hawkman make jokes with a criminal, is what the Flash is thinking. It could be here as a thought balloon that kind of races, like, so he's got thoughts that are racing through each of the panels as it kind of goes. So there's a way to do it. I always feel like the letters, like they're highly trained professionals. They can figure out a place where the lettering goes without obstructing the art too much. But so this is just like really taking some really solid storytelling, adding a veneer or a slight sheen of modern day um, aesthetics on top of it. But you can still see the Z shapes in effect and how critical they are to smoothly taking in imagery and understanding what's going on. The use of shadows and blacks to really create depth and just a separation between foreground, middle ground, and background, create more power and drama. Um, he could easily be standing in between these pylons, and those pylons could be casting a shadow, right? So you could even have the shadow go like that, and you know, like we mentally will figure, like realize that he's standing in front of something, and what does that pylon look like? Well, maybe you establish that pylon here, right? So, um, right, right. Okay, there you have it. It is a crash course in storytelling, bridging art from 1975 to 2020. And so this is a little more detailed than what I normally do, but if I have a story I'm drawing, I break it down like this with pencil, um, right into basic panels, and then I break down the compositions within each panel, do very sort of Greeked in, very rough shadowing. So I remind myself when I get back to these pages later to do a full pencil pass on it that, oh, I meant to have these deep shadows. Don't forget to include those shadows because they're very powerful and help create depth and power in imagery. And just always want to be mindful of, the panel sizes and shapes and how they can create movement and convey information as well. The panel, the size of the panel, okay, can convey information, not just what's inside the panel. And not just the size of the panel, but the size of the panel in relationship to the panels next to it, like these bottom ones here, indicate sort of compression of time or expansion of speed, right? So those are all important things. So hopefully, if we get our technology right, I will have been in the chat while you're listening to this, hoping answer questions and interact with you, and hopefully hang out a little bit afterwards to, um, you know, address some other questions. This is not a finished piece of art, but one of the other hallmarks of my appearances at SAM has always been that whatever I draw to illuminate an answer or explain an answer from a question that someone in the audience had, is I give away the artwork. So I'm more than happy to gift this to someone in the audience, and we can figure it out in chat who that person would be. But I'll just basically um, uh, sign this and put here Sam 2020, and I will ship this out to you, to the person that is fortunate enough to win this. And I hope you guys enjoyed this Sam discussion. I hope it, it taught you guys something, or maybe something you hadn't known before. And I look forward to seeing you guys in person next time, hopefully soon. Take care.